friends, in today's lecture, we would be studying how to make a sales dashboard. So a dashboard is a very crucial skill which you ought to know in Excel. So without any further ado, let me show you how to make a sales dashboard. This is my Excel file which is titled as salesdata.xls, and the link to download this practice file is given in the description of this video. Now let us see what is this dashboard about. So in this dashboard, you can first see sales by manager, sales by states, sales by brand, sales by sector, and sector wise contribution. Also on the left side, you can see if I click on the year 2018, you will see each and every graph will change the moment I click on 2018. So now it is showing me graphs which are respective to 2018 only. If I click on 2019, now it will show me graphs relating to 2019. If I click on 2020, it is showing me graphs specific to 2020. And if I want to see all of them together, I'll just click on clear filter. Now this is the combined data of 2018, 2019 and 2020. Now let's take for example, I want to see the data for the month of January for the year 2018. So I click on 2018. And then you can see there is unfortunately no data for January, but you can see data for February. You can see data for March. You can see data for April. Or you can even press Shift and see data for more than 1 month together. You can clear this and see data for all the months of the year 2018. I'll clear the yearly data. Now you can also see that you have a third parameter, that is the sales happening in the different states. So if I click on Delhi, it will show me the sales for Delhi only. If I click on Goa, it will show me the sales for Goa only for all the 3 years, for all the months. If I want to clear this and see data for all the states, I just click over here and now I can see data for all the states. So this is called as the sales dashboard. Let me show you how to create this dashboard. So first I will show you my raw data. So in this sheet, you can see I have one tab called as data. I would click on that data tab and you can see that I have fields like date, year, month, state, manager, brand, customer sector and sales value. Now we want to make a dashboard for this which would look like this. So let me show you right from the scratch how to do it. So I'll keep this file open so that we can revert to it time and again to see whether we have created a report similar to this. So I click on file and I select blank workbook. Now the first sheet in this file, I'll right click on it and I'll rename it as data. So this is the sheet in which my data would be present. Now I'll copy the data from the earlier sheet. So I'll go to my earlier sheet. I would click on data. I would click on the junction of row and column to select everything. I would press Ctrl C to copy and then I would come back to my new sheet. and then I would press Ctrl V to paste. So the data is pasted now into the new sheet. Now I will make one more sheet and we'll call it as dashboard, and this is, we'll rename it and we'll call this sheet as dashboard, and this is the sheet in which we want to create the dashboard. Now let us come to see what is the first graph. So the first graph I want to make is sales by manager graph. So this is the first graph which I want to make, that is the sales by manager. So let's come back to our sheet and we will first click on the data sheet. Click anywhere inside the data, then click on insert and then click on pivot table. It would ask me where you want to insert the pivot table. So I want to insert it into a new worksheet. Then I would click on OK. And now it would ask me what fields you want. So I want the managers on separate rows. So I click on the manager field and bring it to rows. So you can see all the manager names are over here. And I want all the sales in the values. So these are the sales figures. Now I want a simple bar graph for this. So click anywhere in the pivot and here you have the pivot chart, and we select a simple bar graph and we click on OK. Now I would remove the legend and I don't want these buttons. So right click on the buttons and say hide all field buttons on the chart. And then I don't want these grid lines, so I just click on any of the grid lines and then I would delete them. And I don't want this chart title, so I would click on the chart title and delete that. And I want to format this to a blank background, so I would click on design, I would click on format and I would select shape fill as no fill, shape fill as no fill, and shape outline as no outline. I would rename this sheet as sales by manager. And if I would like to change this design, then I would click on design and there are many different design styles which you can select. So if I like this simple, and then I would right click on this and just add data labels. So my first graph is ready. Now I want to just drag this graph. See, it should be blank, so I would just one more time click on the graph and I would select format, shape fill, no fill, shape outline, no outline. Now it is like transparent. Now I would select this graph by pressing Ctrl C and come into the dashboard and paste it over here, Ctrl V. We will size this up later. Right now I'm just keeping it like this. We'll adjust the font and everything at a later time. So the first graph is ready, that is sales by manager. Now we come back to our original sheet and now the graph we want to make is sales by state. And you can see this graph was vertical, this graph is horizontal. So again we'll come back to our sheet Come back to our data, click on insert, click on pivot table, click on OK, and click on state and bring it down, and click on sales value and bring it here. Click on pivot table, analyze, and select pivot chart. In pivot chart, now the type of chart we want is this way, and we would click on OK. We don't want the legends, so we select the legends and we delete them. We don't want field buttons, so right click and hide all field buttons. We don't want the chart title, so right click and delete the chart title. And we want shape fill as no fill and shape outline as no outline. Then we go into design and select whatever design we prefer. And just for demarcation, we'll change the fill color of this bars. So we click on format and shape fill, we fill it with a different color. And we don't want this chart title, so we click on the chart title and delete it. We don't want these lines, so we select this and we delete it. And the chart, I want it as shape fill would be no fill, shape outline would be no outline. So now sales by state is ready. So I'll rename this sheet to sales by states, and I would click on this sheet, Control C to copy the graph, come to our dashboard, and we would paste over here. We can adjust it later on, just temporarily keeping it here. Let's come back to our original sheet. So sales by manager is ready, sales by states is ready. Now let us make sales by brand. So again we come back to our sheet and we go back to our data, click anywhere on the data, click on insert, select pivot table, new worksheet, OK. Now we scroll down and click on the brand field, bring it here, and we click on sales value and bring it here, and we click on pivot table, analyze, pivot chart, simple bar graph, OK, and we will right click on this, add data label, and we would change this bar color also, shape fill color, to something different. And we don't want these lines in between, we'll delete this. We don't want these field buttons, so right click and hide all field buttons. We don't want this title, we delete it. And finally we don't want the shape fill, and we don't want any shape outline, and we will rename this to sales by brand. Control C, copy this and come to our dashboard, and we'll paste it here. Control V, paste, and the sales by brand is pasted here. Over here one thing is missing, that is the data label. So right click and add data label so that you can see the figure values as well. And we'll develop one habit that the data sheet, we'll keep it on the extreme left and the dashboard next to it. Then we have sales by manager, then we have sales by states, sales by brand. Let's come back to our data sheet and let us see now what is the next graph. So we come back to the original sheet. So this is done, this is done, this is done. Now we come to sales by sector. So again we come back to our data and then we click on insert, select pivot table, new worksheet and select OK. Now we select sector, bring it here and then we click on sales value and bring it here. And then again we make a pivot chart, simple bar chart, right click and hide all field buttons. We don't want the legends, we don't want the chart title, we don't want the grid lines, and we don't want the shape fill, and we don't want the shape outline, and we want to add data labels, and we want to change the color. So we change the fill color and we would like to change the design. So you can just scroll till you see some design which you like. So maybe I like this design. So I select this design and fill color. We just change the fill color. Now we copy this chart, Control C, come into our dashboard and paste it over here. So this is our next graph. Finally, one last graph is remaining. So let us see which is the last graph. So sales by manager done, sales by states done, sales by brand done, sales by sector is done. Now we want a sector wise contribution, and that too I want it in this pie chart format. So we come back to our original sheet and we come back to data, click anywhere on the data, select insert, and this time we want to make a pie chart. So we select the pie chart. Okay, before making the pie chart, obviously we require the pivot table. So insert, pivot table, new worksheet, select OK, and we want sector wise. So select the sector from here and select the sales value from here, and then pivot table analyze, pivot chart, and select pie and select OK. And we don't want the legends, right click on the legends, delete it. We don't want the field buttons, hide all field buttons. We don't want the chart title, delete the chart title. We want the data labels, so we select data labels. Now if you want to format it further, you can right click anywhere and you have over here a option that is change the series chart type, or you have format the data series. So we will select format the data series. So here you can see some of the values which it is showing you, and along with this I also want to see the percentage. So let us see what we can do for that. So I select show value field settings and I say show value as, and I select percentage of grand total and select OK. So it shows me the percentage of the grand total over here, and I would close this. I would again right click on this, and you have this change series or chart type. You have expand. So we select change series or chart type. So the one which we have selected is pi, that is perfect. So we have selected format data label, and here you have the category name. So I want the category name also to be listed. So the category name is also listed. So I just put a check mark here and I got the category names. I would close this. Then I would select shape fill. Just click outside once again and click in the graph and say shape fill, shape outline, no outline. Control C, copy and come back to our dashboard and paste the dashboard here. Alright. Now just we'll rename all the sheets properly. So this is sales by manager, that is correct. This is sales by states, this is also correct. This is sales by brand, this is also correct. Then over here, this is sales by sector. So we'll just rename this to sales by sector, and we will move this beyond, and finally there's one large sheet. We'll rename this to sector wise contribution, and we'll rename this and we'll take it to the last end. So we have sector wise contribution, we have sales by sector, we have sales by brand, we have sales by states, we have sales by manager, then we have our dashboard, then we have our data. Now comes to our dashboard where we have to realign everything so that it looks like a professional dashboard. So let us see how to do that. So I'll first close this pivot chart fields. Then over here in this area, I click on this drop down and I select show tabs. So only the tabs will be present when I click on them and I get to see the entire area. And then I don't want the grid lines to be visible over here. So in the view, click anywhere outside first. In the view, you have this grid lines. I remove this check mark so the grid lines will disappear. Now we have to arrange the charts one by one. We'll start with this chart, that is sales by state, And we'll give a heading over here, sales by state. So we click on insert text box, and we give a heading, sales by states. Okay, and we take it in the center, and we increase the size. Okay, and make it bold. Take this over here. Okay, and you can stretch this down and narrow it down a bit, and take this in the center. Now for some time we'll take this down, and we will take sales by manager. We'll do this over here, and we will increase the size, and we will copy this headings, control C, come here, control V, and we give the heading as sales by managers. Then we come over here, then we bring this graph here, and finally this graph we move it here, and we'll just size it up. So if you click on format, you get the option to reduce the width. Okay, you can just bring this here so that you can see what we are doing. So the overall width I want to reduce, so I click over here, and this will help me reduce the width. And the height. Okay, and then I bring this here, and then I copy the headings, and I bring it here, and change this to sector wise contribution. And then the text is there. I click on home and reduce the text size, slightly increase the graph size, okay, to accommodate everything. Now we are left with these two graphs. We have to decently adjust them. So we will first reduce the size of the text, and here also we'll reduce the size of the text, and here also we'll reduce the size of the text, and we don't want these grid lines which are there in between. We delete them, and we want to give a heading, so control C, control V, and we write down sales by sectors. Okay. Then we don't want the outline, so we go into format, shape outline, no outline, so there's no outline. Then we come here, we select this, and we reduce the text size. We select the x-axis title, and we reduce the text size, and we select the legends. the data labels and we reduce their text size as well. And we don't want the legend. We delete the legend and we select the heading. Control C and Control V, and we change the heading to sales by brands. So now it looks pretty decent. And now what I want over here, I want those buttons. Now those buttons are actually slicers. So what we have to do is we have to go into one of the pivot tables. So we click on the sales by manager, click anywhere inside the pivot table, and in insert you have the option of slicer. Now in slicer you can select what slicer you want. So I want year wise slicer, I want month wise slicer, and I want state wise slicer. Then I would click on OK. Then I select the year slicer, Control C from here, or you can say Control X from here, and come into our dashboard and Control V paste. Then you bring the slicer over here, right click on the slicer, or you can click on the slicer from here and you can specify how many columns you want. So I want 3 columns. You can also specify the width of the slicer and the height of the slicer. And finally, you can also choose what kind of design you would like for the slicer. So the year slicer is done. Again, we come to sales by manager and we select the month names, Control C, come back or Control X, come back to our dashboard, Control V, then bring that dashboard, bring the slicer over here, and then click on slicer, and you can make it into 4 columns, and you can stretch, and you can also reduce the height. And if you want, you can take both of them slightly up so that we can accommodate the third slicer. So we come back to sales by manager, select the state, Control X, come to our dashboard, Control V, and then come to slicer and select 3 columns and reduce the height and bring it here. And join the width. You can see that some of the states are not visible. Then in that case, you can click on the slicer and you can reduce the height of the column so that all the states are visible. Same way you can do over here also. You can go into slicer and slightly reduce the height of the column so that you can reduce this and bring this up. Maybe still will reduce. So you click on slicer and we still reduce the height and bring this up. And bring this up as well. Now let us see whether all the graphs are working with reference to the slicer. So I click here You can see only one of the graph is moving. I click here, only one is moving, nothing is happening for the others. Whereas if I click here, again only one of the graph is working. So let's see what we ought to do next. So clear the filters. Then we right click on one of the slicers like this. And in the slicer, you have this report connection. Here we have to connect it with all the graphs and click on OK. Same way we click on month slicer, right click on the month slicer, report connections and establish a connection with all the charts. And same way for the state, right click on the state, report connections and establish a connection with all the charts. Click on OK. Now let us see 2018, 2019, 2020. You can see all the graphs are changing. Clear the filter. Data for January, data for February. Clear filter. Data for a specific state, data for a specific state, data for all the states. So our dashboard is now ready. So friends, hope you have learned something new in this video today. Remember, I have provided this practice file and the link for that is there in the description of this video. Use it and create a similar dashboard so that you get a better understanding of what you have seen. With this, we end this lecture. And if you have liked this lecture, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe. We'll see you in the next lecture. Till that time, goodbye.